A couple of months ago, I posted a video about how you can use Fabric notebooks with PySpark to find lake houses in a different workspace from where the notebook is located, which is all well and good, but somebody raised the innate question that comes with it. What about SQL, the ever popular language for working with data, but oftentimes is constrained by that whole idea of a server? So in Microsoft Fabric, which is serverless, how far does SQL reach? We answer that question today on today's chapter of DataBard on the Run.
DataBard, 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 DataBard. Dabba, 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 hoi, hoi, hoi.
Alright, let's see how much I can record before my back gives out on me. What could possibly go wrong? Hey there, I'm DataBard, trying to help you write the next step on your data journey through use of efficient and effective tools that help make a difference in the work that you do day in and day out. Currently taking a break from my normal abode to head out to this past summit thing going on in Seattle. Doesn't look that interesting right now, but I think give it another day or two and this should look very exciting. In any case, being at a conference like this is incredibly important for our community today. Viewing these videos on YouTube, while I do appreciate the views, I appreciate more when you're getting out there and you're interacting with communities that are looking slightly more lively than it is right now. The only way you can do that is to get involved in your local user groups. So if you're not getting involved in a local user group, here's my encouragement to you. Get out there, get involved in these events. This is what makes our community truly a community. It is a genuine pleasure and an honor to be back out here in Seattle for the second year in a row, talking at this conference and sharing some information about PySpark and all the wonders of Microsoft Fabric. But in the same way that speaking at a conference here doesn't matter if nobody shows up, a video like this is only helpful if the community knows that it exists and hopefully that it is helpful. So I'm going to do my best to try and make this video helpful. Where I could use your help is liking, subscribing to the channel, and letting other people know that this is a channel where I'm trying to help you be more efficient in your day in and day out work. Now if I can do that, that's what I'm here for. If you think there are opportunities to be more efficient and you want me to research it, please let me know in the comments. I use that sort of information to determine what information I make on the channel, including this video, which is an answer to a question that was posted on a YouTube video not too long ago. So if you've got those ideas, please keep the conversation going so that I can do my best to help you. Sound great? All right, let's get into content. So to set the stage again, we're dealing with the situation of a lot of times when we write database queries, we're writing database queries within the context of a database which has one-to-many schemas, which has one-to-many tables, views, etc. Objects for us to interact with, right? But depending on your situation, you may deal with that ever-popular situation of you need a query that needs to access something else outside of the database. Now, how do you do that? In an ideal situation, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with a bunch of databases that are sitting on the same server, and then all you need is the three-part identifiers to access all of them. The table, the schema, and the database that all of that is contained within. The problem is with Fabric, we don't have servers. About the closest thing we have is workspaces. So does that mean we just need to think of servers and workspaces as the same thing, and we're under the same constraints based on SQL? Let's do some tests and see what we can find out. Let's start with the place that feels most SQL-y for us to actually try and do this. Let's try this with a Fabric warehouse. So from a Fabric warehouse, can we write a query that goes to another Fabric warehouse? As an example here, I've got two warehouses. One is sitting in my workspace. The other one is sitting in a different workspace called DataBard Workspace. Taking a quick look at that environment, there's this dim customer table. We'll use that as our target for today's video. To access it within the workspace, I can use this three-part identifier, warehouse AdventureWorks, DBO, dim customer. Three-part identifier, database to database. And if the warehouse that I want to target is in the same workspace, I can do that. What if it's outside? Well, let's start with at least a basic query. Let's see if the three-part identifier works. I'll go into my other workspace, start up a new query. Let's do a quick select star from this dim select star from dim customer. Let's see what we get. Invalid object name. So in the other workspace, it doesn't seem like it can see it there. Well, if we go by the same nomenclature that we use in servers, this should make sense. This is presumably on a different server. So can we at least reference it with a for-part identifier? Which in some cases works in our SQL query world. Let's try that here. We'll assume that I would expect, if there's going to be a for-part identifier, it should be the name of the workspace, which is just DataBard workspace. Let's go DataBard workspace .AdventureWorks. So here, for-part identifier, we're trying to hit the table, which exists in a schema, which exists in the database, which exists on a server. We'll think about it as a workspace. At least the error message changed, but it doesn't look like we're going to find it there. Cannot find server, DataBar workspace in sys.servers. So at least knows to expect a server. But a quick check of select star from sys.servers. We'll comment on the section above. Should tell us that in this case, we can query a sys.servers similar to what we could in a SQL Server database environment. But the only environment that it looks like it has available is this one here, which is the definition of the workspace itself. It has no way to see the other one. It seems like our theory is accurate that we should be trying to think of the workspace as a server, and because of that, at least in this workspace to workspace comparison, looks like we're hitting a wall. We can't access the database. We can't access the warehouse that exists in another workspace. So a warehouse query connecting to another warehouse in a different workspace doesn't seem to work. Let's take a step away from that, from another item in Fabric. Maybe this is going to give us some better options. The T-SQL notebook, currently in preview. If we take a look at that, I can start up a new code window. And since I'm doing T-SQL, I can connect into a warehouse, which this is connected into the warehouse in my same workspace. And I can try to attempt a query to the other window. Let's go ahead and copy our query from the other window. Copy that. Bring that into our T-SQL notebook. Uncomment it. And let's see. We're going to try that for-part identifier, because that seemed to at least suggest... We're going to try that for-part identifier, because at least before, it seemed to understand the idea of a server. It just wasn't quite sure where to get it. Let's run that. Same error message happens. There really doesn't seem to be a way to access it this way. So here, we're hitting the same limitation. Within the context of a specific warehouse within our environment, we can't query a warehouse in another environment. That does give me a thought, though. Typically, things like these notebooks, you should be able to connect them to items in other workspaces. So with this being a T-SQL notebook, can I connect it to the warehouse in another workspace? I go here and I click on warehouses. It is only showing me the items in my workspace. Can I search for AdventureWorks? Doesn't look like it. Alright, they blocked us here too. Alright, so here's the last idea I had a thought of, and hopefully this one works, because if not, I might need to use a workaround that I'm not sure I want it to do, but we'll see what happens here. Last thing I thought of was, alright, warehouse doesn't work, T-SQL notebook doesn't work. What about a Spark SQL notebook? It's still SQL, right? Can we do SQL-y things here? Let's go into this notebook. Let's add in stuff. I mean, here at least I can see At least here I can see objects from other workspaces, but it is focusing on lake houses. And I'm not able to at least see the other area, but I'm not going to give up. Let's at least connect to a lake house within my workspace. And let's see if we can still query it all the same. You never know. To do that, I'm going to go back and let's copy our super fancy script. Let's convert it over here. My recording stuff. Start up a brand new session. Again, we're using Workspace default, so this will come up nice and quickly. Excellent. Let's try and run it here. Syntax error near that. You know what? I didn't even think about this, but I should have a Copilot write this. Let's have a Copilot write this. We're going to copy this. Let's see if Copilot can do it. Write me a query that is able to access the following table in the data bard workspace. See what it comes up with here. Alright, so its initial response is it gave me something in PySpark, which I know I can technically do this with PySpark. Like, that would work just fine here. You could do Spark SQL. You should be able to write a query here as long as it's within context. But that's not exactly what we want, and especially Spark, in that case, would still be working with a lakehouse. There's got to be another way to do this. Let's prompt it one more time. Say specifically a Spark SQL query. Let's force it to do it this way. Alright, test, go. Alright, the response it gave us was just a basic select star from dim customer. I mean, technically the table is unique within this environment. Could it be just that simple? I don't think it's going to be this simple. But I could be wrong. Survey says, nope, can't find the table that way. Here we are, stuck at another point here. Do we have any other options? Do we have any other options? Alright, it took me a little while, but I finally figured out at least a way. Although I don't honestly feel very good about it. Well, one of the options, at least when you work with Spark, is you have the option to connect to lakehouses, right? Well, what do lakehouses have? They have shortcuts, which you can shortcut from one location to another. So can you shortcut to a warehouse? Yes, you can. At least if I run this query here, I'm expecting this should run successfully. And yep, there it goes. So that's at least the one way that we can do that. But think about that. That's essentially doing the same thing as like a linked server from one server to another. What's the risk there? Security. You have one shared account that has the access through the linked server. In the shortcut, you pretty much get the same experience there. So does it work technically? Yes. But that's not exactly what we want. So in short, how far does SQL go? It goes within the scope of a workspace, and it can't really get outside of that without some external solution supporting it. Pretty similar to what we dealt with in the SQL Server days. Seems like we're going to deal with the same thing here in Microsoft Fabric.
That brings us to the end of this video and me to the end of my past Summit journey. Thank you for joining me on this trip. If you found this video helpful, hit that like and subscribe button to get notified of future videos on the DataBard channel. Have any follow-up questions on this topic? Let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to answer those questions in future videos. For now, I'm DataBard, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Hopefully not on the run anymore.
Today's chapter may be done, But that doesn't mean the story is over. If you are looking to work with someone like me to improve your data strategy or implementation, go to bakertilly.com/digital, fill out the contact form, and let's see how we can help you take the next step on your data journey.